I've been gambling online for a few years now, and there is some pretty key strategy that I feel like is completely overlooked and not talked about and talked down upon because of things like this Blackjack strategy guide. They call this the book, the moves you're supposed to make, and I think that is complete hogwash. That mathematically, it makes no sense, and it's really important to talk about why and give people good advice to play blackjack and to gamble online overall. And a lot of it has to do with mindset and some basic understanding of some things. First of all, which site you choose is very important. You need to choose a site, especially if you're going to like play a lot of something like blackjack, that has a lot of different tables because the games are different and the rules are going to be slightly different. Particularly, there's going to be some tables that allow you to, after you split, to double, split again, crap like that. It's important to me that you understand that and that you choose one that allows you to cash out. Cash out is super important. So the cards are dealt and you don't want to go in the hand at all. Say you have a 15 dealer ace. You don't buy insurance. He doesn't have the blackjack, but he still has an ace. So there's an 80% chance he's going to make a hand, and your 16 is cooked. Cash out. Say you put in $50, cash out $40 or whatever it will be, and just hope to get better cards on the next hand. That is the most valuable tool in choosing a blackjack table, and that's very important. So choose a site that has lots of options. Here in Canada, I like to play on BetMGM, and I've done well. Overall, playing blackjack, I've done quite well. But in that time, I've also watched various content creators because watching someone play blackjack is incredibly entertaining, especially when people play wrong, which is almost everyone and almost every time. I don't know if I've watched a blackjack session where somebody doesn't at some point go all in. Unless they're just purely winning, they go on some long streak of winning, then yeah, they can play optimally. But otherwise, they just don't. Now, why that is because this chart you see before you, it tells you what moves you should make with what cards you have and what cards the dealer has, or card the dealer has showing. So the problem with going all in is that it stops you from doing two of these moves, the blue and the yellow, which is doubling and splitting, because you need to double your bet to do either of those. If you are unable to do those, then your strategy is cooked. Then you're taking what was you following the rules, playing by the book, which only gives you about like a 48% chance to win. I think it's actually a little bit less than that. And you're taking that and pooping on it. You're limiting your most important and valuable moves. So you're taking what was a 48% chance to win and reducing it to about a like 38% chance to win. You're cooked. You're dumb. You're not playing right. You're not betting the appropriate amount. And ultimately, what you're doing is you're not using the correct mindset. You're not going into the gambling session in the right state of mind, and the casino is beating you by design. Now, your mindset needs to be focused on one thing, and that is winning. What is my path to winning? Your mindset, often with so many people, and only some content creators, it makes sense, but even then, it doesn't even really make sense to me. Because even if you are making ad revenue through your streams or your videos, so you kind of don't care if you win or lose, or it's not that big of a deal, you should still want to win. It makes no sense that people are playing so nonchalantly and just getting tilted out of their mind and getting smoked in blackjack all the time because they're just playing wrong. You have just destroyed your chances of winning and secured your loss. You will see this like every time. If you went through every YouTube video of a blackjack session, it would probably be at least 80% of the time you will see this, if not 90% of the time. And you'll see people do this. You'll be at at your table, the person playing next to you, does this crap, and it is so stupid. And these people will sit there. And I think it's poisoning the minds of players, is people watching these content creators who play so improperly, who reduce their odds so dramatically. And a lot of these same content creators will get mad at players at their same table for not hitting a 15. And the same player will be like, oh, this person's not playing by the book. They're just stupid. They're an idiot. And then what that does is the viewer who doesn't understand the mathematics behind the game will think that they're smart because, oh, well, this person's good at the game. They get paid to play this game. Who cares that they're way behind? They've lost way more than they've won. That's how, it's gambling. They think that the person they watch is smart because that person follows the book. So then they must be smart because they follow the book, and anyone who doesn't is dumb. That's incredibly flawed because who makes the book? Who makes the book? The idea of the book is, well, they tested this out mathematically. They ran a simulation, thousands and thousands of hands, and these are the moves that are most likely to have you win the most amount of times. No, I don't buy that for a second. Now, overall, the strategy you see in this chart, they basically get it right, but there's some things that I feel like are very importantly wrong, and that's ultimately why I wanted to make this video, because I've seen this consistently and very shortly into myself getting into the game of blackjack. I noticed these things right away. I realized very quickly that hitting a 12, you're almost certain to not bust. So this tells you right here to stand a 12 against a 4, 5, 6. That's not that great of an idea. Why? Because it's only functional if you're trying to play the game that this strategy guide is telling you to play. Now, what that is telling you to play is play its version of the game, which is the dealer, the house wins 52% of the time, you win 48% of the time. That's a losing strategy. It's telling you to lose at the end of the day. No. We don't want to do that here, though. That's not the result that I want. I don't want to break even, and I certainly don't want to lose money. I want to win. I want to come out ahead. I enjoy gambling a bit, especially the winning aspect. The most joy I get out of it is by winning and coming up with new ways to win. I don't know why other people don't function that way, why they don't talk about it, why they don't strategize. It's very bizarre to me. This idea that, the strategy's set in stone and there's nothing else to think about because this strategy guide exists. What? Is the strategy guide even right? Why do you believe the strategy guide is correct? Because I'm not seeing it. So a 12 against a 5 or a 6. Now that 5 or 6 that the dealer has, there's a 70% chance that they're going to bust. So standing on a 12 is fine, right? There's a good chance they're going to bust. Good chance you win. But I think, especially against a dealer 4, you should probably hit. I'll hit that. I'll hit that all day. Because then the dealer only has about a 65, like closer to 60% chance to bust. So I'm getting smoked. My 12 is getting smoked against a 4 a lot of the time, so I'm probably going to hit. But in the situation where I'm against the dealer 5 or a 6, I'm going to double. Like, I'll hit, I'll double. Because I get so much backlash for doing that too. And people act like it's completely insane. But why is it insane? Now you could say, the dealer has a 70% chance of busting and you're implementing a chance that you yourself can bust. You're adding this 30% chance that you bust. But that's fine. Why? Because it's gambling. Because when you run it through a calculator, 70% chance, and then you add a 70% chance on top of that you might that you won't bust, right? There's a 70% chance that you will not bust if you double your 12. So you take 70 and then you apply 70 to that 70 and you get 50. Well, you get 49 technically. That's better than you just playing the game. That's better than you stepping foot at the blackjack table. Right? You have a better chance of winning, doubling a 12 against a 5 or a 6 than you do at winning at the game of blackjack. So, where it gets really bizarre is when we talk about some other hands, specifically 15 and 16. Because, like I said, if a 15 or a 16 is hit, now it's a little different with the dealer, right? With the dealer 5 or 6, because that's not technically a 15 or a 16. But a 15 or a 16 hits. They have a 70% chance to bust. But wait, if me taking a 70% chance to not bust with the 12, right? Because a lot of hands, when you're against a 5 or a 6, you're just hoping that the dealer busts. They might not. So that 70% chance of doubling the 12 makes a lot of sense. That's a good bet. But people will sit there and hit a 15 or a 16, and I've seen streamers get mad. I've had people type at me in the chat just sitting at a online table, freak out at me for not hitting a 15. It's like, what? Why would I hit a 15 if I have a 70% chance that the card that I'm going to get is a bust? Or even beyond that, especially a 15, that the card is going to do nothing anyway. Because if with a 15, say you could still get an ace on a 15, brings you to 16. That's not good. That's a bad position. Or either of those to a 17. Right? Like if the dealer has a 10, especially if the dealer doesn't have a 10 though, but your idea is that like the dealer is going to make a hand, but they might not. There's only a 30% chance that they even have a 10 as their hidden card, right? The dealer has a pretty good chance to bust a lot of the time, and that gets completely overlooked. So it's so bizarre to me that people have talked as though my idea of hitting or doubling a 12 in certain scenarios is crazy. That's an insane bet. You're taking a 70% odds bet, you're a lunatic. But then they'll take a 30% odds bet on hitting a 15 or a 16. What? You're out of your mind. You're out of your mind there. Like you're just mathematically illiterate. Hitting a 16 is like the dumbest thing you can do. Now, yeah, if you're against an ace, right? Yeah, you have to, because there's an 80% chance that the dealer's going to make a hand, thus you lose. But like I said at the start, pick a table where you can cash out of that. You don't want to be in that hand. There's an 80% chance you're getting smoked. You need to yeet right out of that hand. If you can't though, then yeah, hit the 15, hit the 16. But a lot more times than you realize, standing is just the best move. And the fact that people just dismiss that idea or don't talk about it, act like this strategy guide, this playing by the book is set in stone. What stone is that set in? And who set it in stone? And does the math even add up? Is the logic there, right? Because you have to think of math in a logical way. Think of, what am I trying to do? What is the goal here? What are these numbers? What outcome am I trying to get? Am I trying to just play this game that this rule book is telling me to play, to where I'm making very specific bets at specific times to result in 48%? I just don't understand how people who gamble could possibly be outraged at taking bets even if it's within the game itself, that are 70% chance to win. Like, come on. Right? Like, I get it. I get it. If you stand on a, you could say if you stand a 16 against certain hands, the dealer has a 70% chance to make a hand certain times. But what are those times? I just, especially against a 7, like, look at this. This is telling you if you have a 16 to hit against a 7. What? What the hell? Why? Why would you do that? To me, that is completely insane. Because that 7 has a way better chance of turning into dog crap. You're thinking that of the, like, 4 cards that can upgrade them, well, really 5 cards can upgrade them to a winning hand, that you're going to just ignore the other, like, what is it, 8 cards that downgrade them, that bust them, or I don't know. It's just mathematical illiteracy. I would never hit a 15 or a 16 against a 7 or an 8. Never. To me, it's unimaginable. But hey, what do I know? What do I know? I just, one site. And that's not all from Blackjack. I play a big variety of games, but that same mindset that I have, to me, has allowed me to win way more online than I've lost. Because it's all about your mindset and your strategy and how those tie together. And to me, the core of that is what path leads to me winning. Because I don't want to lose or break even. I want to win.